First, you should know where technical presentations and the skill needed for it are used. For example, in startup ventures, when you start a company, you have to make some technical presentation and a summary of your business plan. If you already have a company or starting a company, you need to make such presentations to venture capitalists, business partners. If you are working for a company, you have to make such presentations to higher management to give you money to do your technical work. Okay? Proposals for research, project funding. If you have an idea for research, you write a proposal, you make the technical presentation to funding agencies. It could be internal to higher management or external funding agencies. When you're doing your master's or PhD, you need to defend your thesis in front of experts. That's technical presentation. Also, if you're doing MBA, you need to present your project. It may or may not be technical, but it's similar to technical presentation. If you're applying for academic jobs or research jobs, you're supposed to make a presentation, technical presentation on the work that you have already done in your field of research. Okay? It's part of the job interview process. When you write a technical paper, you want to publish it. Before that, you need to make a presentation at conferences. Okay? Often you may be invited to give a seminar or talk on your research. That's technical presentation. If you're a teacher, a professor, you have to give lectures. Also, quite often you have to give technical presentations, and the ingredients and techniques are very similar for seminars, talks, engineering classes. Where else? You have to answer that. You have to think about where technical presentations and the skills needed for it can be used. Let me tell you in general, if you get a job in a company, often you have to make technical presentations. And this is an important skill. You should master that. Using our guidelines, something that you're going to learn today, also by practicing. You have to practice. So presentations, seminars, and lectures, they have many things in common. We're going to go over some basic hints and tips. That's what you'll get. Basic structure that you're going to learn. First, there is a part called opening. It lasts about 5 minutes, depending on. Suppose you have a 45 minutes presentation, you'll have about 5 minutes. Opening basically means introduction. What are you going to talk about? For example, how did I open? I said, what the seminar is going to be about, where it's going to be useful. Okay? You may have a slightly different kind of starting. Generally, these are the ways to start. An effective technical presentation, a thought-provoking question. Suppose your presentation is about solving a very difficult technical problem. You pose a question to the audience, and that wakes them up, that makes them interested. Then you talk about the solution you have come up with. Okay? Some people, some experts, especially the famous people, they start with an anecdote or relevant story. Anecdote means personal story that relates to your research work. Okay, of an inventor, you can talk about a story of an inventor or some invention. Humor you should try to avoid unless you are a world famous person. Okay, because especially in multicultural audience. The audience, you don't know them very well. They are from various cultures. Humor you should try to avoid unless you are very famous. You are famous, whatever you say, people like it. Okay? Review of previous lecture. If it's a series of lectures, a seminar, a workshop, you can talk about the previous lecture. If in a classroom lecture, you can talk about the previous lecture. Just very short, maybe 1 minute of that. Also, you can introduce the objective of this lecture and application, if any. This is how I started. I mentioned about the objective of this lecture, today's lecture, that you are going to learn the techniques for technical presentation, effective technical presentations. And application, I told you where to use it. This is how I started. I started today's presentation. So you have to choose one of these four. Opening should not last longer than 5 minutes because you have many important things to talk about in the body. Body is the main part where you introduce slightly your problem, the problem you're going to address in slightly more details. Then you talk about your detailed work that you have done to solve that problem. Use a lot of pictures, figures. You talk about your theory a little bit. Any equations, major equations, not the small things, okay? Things that are obvious or that are not too important, that are commonly available in textbooks. You shouldn't put those things. New things. Experimental data, if you have done any experiment, the data. But instead of presenting a large amount of data, you can mention it's got 2 gigabytes of output. I'm going to present it in the form of plots and charts. These are much more effective than a bunch of numbers, okay? Well labeled. Looking at the chart, the audience must understand the gist of what you are talking about, what you have done, okay? The relations. These are much more effective than presenting a large amount of data. Pause every 15 minutes when you're talking about this, so maybe 10 minutes. Every 10 minutes, interact with the audience. Ask to solve a realistic problem. Sometimes not possible, especially if, suppose you are defending your thesis. You're not going to ask the committee to solve a problem. So use your judgment. If it's students, it's very good to ask them to solve a realistic problem. Very short, very small problem that they can do in 1 minute. Just to make sure that they are with you, they are understanding. Once in a while, you have to ask them questions, ask them to give their answer. You can also give the correct answer. Applications, very important, extremely important. People who teach too much of theory in a seminar or lecture is not effective unless they talk about applications. Show some video, if possible, of what you have done. People like animations and videos. Hardware, if you have created some hardware or your part solve some problem for hardware, take a piece of hardware and show it to them, give a demo. This is extremely important to hold the attention of the audience. Okay? Experiment with this experiment you try. You try teaching with reverse engineering. What does that mean? You take a product to the classroom, to the seminar hall, show it to the people. Product first, show the product. Then theory. Then the theory. This is a part that's missing in many classroom lectures. They don't show the product first. You should show the product first, theory later. Okay, then people, your audience, your students, everybody would be interested in learning what you're going to teach if they know the applications first. Okay? For example, if you're working on something electronics, you're teaching, going to talk about something electronics, take a product that's somewhat similar, that applies the theory that you're going to teach. Then you teach the theory, how it works. It's that simple, okay? It takes probably 10 minutes of extra effort, but it makes your seminar really effective. Innovative ideas towards the end of the body. You should talk about some innovative ideas that this theory can be used to produce this. Or ask the audience, Do they have any innovative ideas? Who doesn't like coming up with new things, new ideas? Okay? Closure. At the most 10 minutes. You have to wind up. You have to summarize what you have taught till now. Give handouts. Why you should give handouts towards the end is this. If you give it in the beginning, people start flipping through the pages, don't listen to what you have to teach or you're going to talk about. So a handout should be given at the end, or give a link where they can download it. Homework, assign some homework. Doesn't matter, even if it's very fancy seminar, very advanced level seminar. Give them something to think about, okay? Some references, your work, maybe your references, and others in the similar field. What next? This is very important. What kind of research are you going to do? Suppose you're making a technical presentation to the potential customers. So we are working on this. This is what we are going to do in 5 years' time. Okay? Then give some time for question and answer. Everybody likes to ask some questions. Be ready with the answers. Okay? Finish your statement. Finish with a statement. Your presentation, seminar, and lecture should finish with a statement, a quote, or something to take away and remember. Most of the people in the audience will not remember the details of what you talked about, but one statement, one powerful statement will stay in their mind forever. Okay, you have to think a lot about what can I tell them that they will remember and they can relate to whatever I have said until now. Okay, for example, I'll give you a very simple example. One of the most famous professors in his field, and he transferred, he was teaching. He used to take 2 hours class. It used to get quite boring at times, although he was a very good teacher. But I remember one thing. He said, while talking about radiation, he said, 2 infrared radiation, black and white, are the same color. We didn't believe it, but he showed us the data. And I remember that part, and that has helped me a lot. Much later, I remember part of his lecture just because of that one statement that nobody else has said. He came up with this. All right, so a statement, a quote, something to take away and remember, something that relates to what you're talking about. Okay? For example, I have something. If one can relate, one can retain. That's me. That's me. I said that. If you can relate the things that you are teaching here to something that they have seen before, or you are showing it to them, if they can relate to some application, they can retain. Okay? Very good. You have to go over my video a couple of times. I have to speed up because I have a lot of material to cover in about 30 minutes. Presentations, seminars, and lectures. How? Okay, preparation. This is how you're going to prepare. Write down your objective. First, a rough objective. You can revise it later and make it very concrete and very clear objective later. But first, write down objective. In fact, you should write down 2 objectives. One, what the audience should learn from your lecture. Another, what is your objective? Is your main objective to get funding from them, or to get a job, to get your degree, defending your thesis? What is your objective? Write down 2 objectives, okay? Keep in mind the target audience. What kind of audience are you going to address? Suppose they are mixed audience, some from technical backgrounds, some undergrad students, some graduate students, some experts. So keeping in mind that majority of the people in the audience understands. So you have to make your content not too simple, not too complicated, depending on the type of audience. When you're defending your thesis, for example, you can assume that the audience is expert in your field. Probably some of them are excellent, and they will understand very highly complicated technical matters. So make it complicated, okay? If it's a seminar for general audience, to make them excited about your research, Try to make your language somewhat simpler. Example, somewhat simpler so that they can relate to it. All right, prepare the outline first. Outline, as I said, what goes in the beginning part? How do you start? The details of what you are going to talk about and how you're going to end, that outline and the flow. And connections on real sheets of paper. Write it down, not on computer, on real pages. Write down with pencil because you have to rearrange that. Maybe make little pieces with little notes. And then rearrange this. The flow all right? Now, no, I'm jumping too much from here to there. No connection. Put something in between or rearrange. Okay, you got to do that. Spend a lot of time on that planning. Then rearrange based on relevance. If something is not really directly connected to what you're talking about or planning to talk about, try to leave them, okay? Prepare slides. Then you start preparing slides if you're planning to make PowerPoint presentation or overhead slides. Use a good template. I use a very simple thing, okay? On top line, I see what's going to be on this page. At the bottom, some kind of conclusion or some statement they will remember. In between, some point by point and sub-points, okay? You can use bullet or whatever. Very simple. Do not make too fancy background. You're not trying to sell something like chocolate to somebody, are you? If that's the going to be the presentation, it's different. It's not technical presentation, okay? That's marketing. That's something different. A good template, large font size. Unfortunately, I could not put too large here. Then my number of slides was getting large. So I had to make just enough legible. Let's say 20, minimum 20 you should put. Large font size, contrast. What do I have here? White background, almost white, slightly beige if you cannot tell. And black, dark black, sometimes highlighted with red. Or dark blue I can put. If your background is very dark, for example, black or dark blue, then the letters should be light, very light color, big, large contrast so that people sitting way in the back of the seminar hall can read it clearly. One of the biggest problems is people have to squint their eyes, they get tired, they get distracted, they fall asleep. You have to avoid that. All right. Then you fill in the essential text. Once you're happy with the structure, okay, and the main points, then you start filling in essential text. Do not write too much. I have written too much here because I'm reading from it, but that's not the ideal way to do it because I'm not making a technical presentation. I'm telling you how to make a technical presentation. Okay, there's a difference. Essential, only essential text. Add charts and figures as much as possible and pictures. People love pictures. They remember figures and charts. They don't remember lots of text or numbers, okay? Go over it many times. Make sure there's no mistake, no technical mistake in your technical presentation. Corrections, okay? You got to correct it several times. Prepare a separate detailed notes of what you are going to say. This is going to be actual slides are going to be very short, maybe at the most 10 slides, 12 slides, not more than that, right? And text, not too much text there, but you have to speak a lot of things. You have to say a lot of things. So those things you cannot remember unless you write down the details. This is exactly what I'm going to say, okay? Even prepare some question every 10 minutes. You have to interact with them, right? You should ask them some questions. So question and be ready with the answers. Rehearse 10 times. Rehearse. At least 10 times you have to rehearse, okay? Make mock presentations to your friends or colleagues and ask them for their feedback, refine. Record yourself if possible. Record yourself in video and see how you look, how your presentation is. Maybe the flow is not right. Correct it. Okay, go over it 10 times. So a couple of times, revise, change, record again, and make a couple of mock presentations. All right. This is what you have to do. You have to practice acting active. What is it? Act active. Look, you may be tired. You may have taken a 6 hours flight and go directly for presentation. Doesn't matter. You have to be really active. How does that happen? By practice. First of all, you have to convince yourself that whatever you're presenting here is extremely important. It should show on your facial expressions, your movement, everything should reflect that this is a serious thing you are going to talk about. The first impression counts. When you walk in there, your expressions, your movement should be so impressive that people wake up and pay attention. Okay, this is very important. First impression, unfortunately, counts a lot. Attire, dress properly, okay. Nowadays, there are different kinds of presentations. Some presentations not required that you dress formally, but appropriately. Posture, gesture, we have talked about it, body language many times. I'm not going to go over that. But gesture, looking at the audience every now and then, showing interest and expressing voice modulation, everything matters. Gestures. You should not act hyperactive. You should not act like a lazy person who is doing it just for money, okay? You should get totally involved into that. Conviction and excitement, it should show honesty, passion, commitment that yes, what I have done is very important. Please take it seriously, okay? Voice modulation, up and down. Have you noticed how I'm talking? I may be tired. I must have worked about 10 hours already. Do I look really tired? No, because I believe in what I'm doing. This is really serious. A large number of people do not know how to make presentations. They come back as failure and never get invited again. So this is important. Eye contact with the audience, look at the people, just enough movements, not too much, as I said, not too hyper. Okay, no jumping around. Okay, there are some people who do that. I think one of the CEOs of Microsoft used to be extremely hyper, and that works too, but in general, just enough movement, hand movement, gentle movement, not too much movement, not too stiff, not too much, okay. Interaction with the audience, once in a while you have to ask questions. Overcoming the stage fright. Many people have that, especially if you're a starter. How do you overcome? I have a trick, I'll tell you, try that, it works. Plant a friend far away in the audience, far away. Look at that person, ignore the others, and start talking to that person. Your voice goes up because that person is sitting in the back of the room. Also, because it's a friendly person, somebody you know, you don't get nervous. Try this, this works. There are some other ways to do it too, but this trick definitely works. Self-improvement, this is very important. Find 2 or 3 things you could do better, work on them. For example, I know right now I'm talking too fast because this is new material. You'll not be able to absorb everything. I should slow down, okay? So let me try that right away, okay? If you can convince yourself that what I'm saying or doing now is the most important thing, it'll show in all of that. People will take you seriously. They'll see the sincerity, the amount of work you have done. Then they'll pay attention to the details of what you're presenting. Okay? This is really important. You have to convince yourself that you're not talking nonsense. You're talking a lot of sense. All right. So, a dozen trick. Let me go over that a little bit quickly because we don't have too much time, unfortunately. This is another thing. I can sit and listen to some important and good lecture from an expert for 3 hours. But majority of the people can watch a 2-hour movie but cannot listen to a half-an-hour lecture. This is unfortunate, but it's a compromise you have to make. Keep the theme very specific. Because I mixed business presentation to some extent with technical presentation, it's taking longer. I should make only one theme, very specific. So your technical presentation should not be too broad in nature, very specific. It helps you. Hint at what to expect from the talk at the start, yet keep it a suspense. For example, if you're going to teach some new theory, you ask a question, let people think about it. So do you know how to solve this problem? I'm going to tell you, but don't tell the answer till the end. Keep it a suspense. then people will pay attention and they'll be looking forward to learning about it. Okay? Focus on the average or majority of the class or audience. As I said, mixed classes, you don't want to focus only on the brightest, only on the ones that are far behind or don't understand much. So majority of the people should be happy. They should understand what you're saying, the importance of what you're saying. Okay? Keep it simple, but put in one difficult thing in your presentation. Keep it somewhat simple. Very complicated matters can be expressed in simpler terms. Okay, it's possible. But keep something difficult so that people don't take it too casually. Oh, what did he say? Oh, it's nothing new. That's the attitude a large number of people have. You cannot change it. So keep something difficult so that they know that it's not that easy. Tell important or new points only after pauses. You see that I'm giving pauses once in a while or telling something, a short story or something. Then I'm telling something very important. What happens is that relaxes people's mind. Then they are ready to absorb something new. Okay? When the audience is alert, in the beginning, audience is alert, tell a lot of important things. So they remember. Some of the things you may have to repeat through examples, things that they must understand from your lecture. You may have to repeat through statement, through quote, through examples, through demos. That point should not be missed. Okay. All right. Relate to something with simple and familiar. Use analogies, but avoid metaphors. So you're talking about technical things. Metaphors are very good for poets and others because they have nothing technical to present, but you have a lot of technical things to present. So use analogies. Okay, for example, if I'm talking about flight of an airplane, I can talk about and the damage tolerance, etc. I can talk about how a simple butterfly with half broken wing can still fly and maintain the control. Doesn't fly very elegantly, but it can control. But a plane with half broken wing cannot fly. It will crash. Okay, so that's an analogy. Relate to something simple and familiar. That always builds the knowledge slowly. Okay. Give realistic examples of applications, whatever you have done. Use realistic numbers. Some people, they throw in numbers, million, billion. They don't know what the realistic numbers are. No, take the real numbers. Take the real numbers from your experiment, from a machine or a computer. Don't say zillions. No, why? Zillion is not a proper term. If it is 1.2 million, say 1.2 million. That's it. Finished. Okay. Leave some details out. When you're making the presentation, do not go too much into the details and every little details. People get bored. Leave that out. What happens? There's a trick. Let the audience think about it. They will think, I'm going to ask him a question about that. And you already have the answer in your second notes. The detailed notes should have possible questions and answers. You think about it and give an answer. They get impressed. Okay, that's the trick. Keep detailed notes ready with some possible question and answers. Repeat the main point a few times during the presentation. I already talked about that. This is very important. What is the main thing that I'm going to talk about? When you come out of this seminar, after the presentation or whatever, they should have at least one point in their mind they will remember for a long time. Okay? Repeat that several times. Relate the end to the beginning. This is a trick many comedians do, but it happens to be equally effective. When you started with something, the objective, make sure that at the end that objective is met. People get really excited. Oh, really? That's how it works. Okay, ensure that you have reached your objectives. See, I didn't see that part of the sentence, but because I've gone through this several times, I know what I'm going to talk about. All right. Finish with a powerful statement or quote to remember for a long time. Be courteous and humble. Avoid conflicts and arguments. Some people, for some reason, they ask some question that sounds smart, but actually they are not very smart. So do not get into an argument with them. Try to answer as much as can, politely, humbly. This is how it is. And if you don't know something, so I'll look it up. I think it's not impossible, but some reasonable answer you can get. Avoid conflicts. This is very important. Avoid conflicts and arguments. Okay? 12 tricks. Go over this video several times, please. Okay? Here, learn from the masters. I'm good. I make very good presentations. I'm a very good teacher. I know that. But there are people much better than me. Learn from them. Look for their videos. Professor Walter Lewin of MIT. Steve Jobs' presentation, although he didn't make too much technical presentation, but marketing is good to know. Exciting to see how he makes the presentation. Very simple, very powerful, using simple words. He doesn't use fancy words. But why do people like whatever he says? Why? There must be something. Learn from them. Make a presentation like Steve Jobs. Look for this one on YouTube. You may learn something. It's not waste of time. Okay, it is really going to make a difference in your presentation. Learn from the masters. And this one I recommend to his video, Professor Walter Lewin's videos. I recommend to everybody who wants to be excellent professors. Homework. I'll give you 2 homeworks. One is a project work. Take your project, write the project research plan, and make a short mock presentation to your friends. Okay, clear objective, impact, very important. The proposal you're writing or project that you are working on, how is it unique? How is it different? You may have to exaggerate slightly. That's okay. What kind of impact it will have? Okay, people should know that what you are going to talk about is very important. Very important. Okay, it's not just standard textbook reading from textbook. It's something new. Got to somehow convince yourself, then the audience, that's going to have some kind of impact. Introduction, current state. You got to tell them what. This is how you are going to prepare it. Current state, what the current state of research is, what has been done, technology, innovation, who is doing what kind of work. But what has not been done? What are the problems with it? The current state of technology. Okay? Why you are doing that, that relates to that objective. Then technical work, the details that you have done, what kind of equipment you have used, your results, plot, and how you have verified it. Value, again, it comes back to this impact and uniqueness. Okay? Value and what kind of future work you are doing. Okay? Sometimes simple things can have so much value, you will not believe it. 10 years from now, maybe your work will be used by big industries and help millions of people. Okay, you got to declare that ahead of time. Do your homework before the presentation. Current state, as I mentioned, who has done what, the current problem. Rehearse this part. People think they can go on the stage and start talking about it. It doesn't happen. They get nervous and miss most of the points. Make mock presentations. Take questions and criticisms from your friends during the mock presentations. Do not feel bad if they criticize a question. It's good for you. Improve and impress. Reference. This is for, most likely, this one is for business presentation, and this is for technical presentation. Take these 2 references. Go over that very quickly. Implement some of the important things in your presentations. All right. Homework B, business plan. Suppose you are going to graduate and start your own company. Come up with an idea and write a business plan for a startup. Take a picture of this. There's a lot of things self-explanatory, especially these references. This one is for technical presentation, I said. Okay, include these things. Make a presentation. I don't have to teach you every details, do I? You're grown up. Explore. Look through these things and see what does that mean. Okay, implement some of them in your presentation. Make the slides, make mock presentations, take the feedback. Unless you practice these things, you're not going to improve. Okay? All right, next. Do you promise to do your homework? Assign 2, choose one, do it. Maybe do both. Why not? What mistakes did I make in my presentation? I just made a presentation about how to make presentation, but I did not put any pictures. I said you should put a lot of plots and pictures. I didn't have any. Make the presentation, business presentation or technical. If you fail, get criticized or get rejected, then read about Bill Gates' story of his success. Steve Jobs, Jack Ma, J.K. Rowling. All of them have failed many times. People who don't do anything, they don't fail. If you want to climb up a mountain, there's a high chance you're going to fall. If you're walking on flat path, if you don't have any objective to go up, there's less chance of falling. So if your goal is high, you are going to fall. You are going to fail many times. That's good. It makes you strong. Okay? Read this. We Can by Commander V.K. Jetley. Read this book. An excellent book. Okay? It's probably a couple of hundred rupees. It's nothing. But what the value that you get from here, the advice, the stories, incredible. Okay. Know just this. Your power is unlimited. Keep working hard to do something great. I was talking about climbing mountains. That was only a metaphor. You will succeed. Keep working hard. Keep working hard. Okay? Oh, there's the picture. So I did show a picture. Making a difference. If you are the first to do something amazing, you will be discouraged by a lot of people. They will discourage you. They will criticize you. You'll be laughed at by the mediocre minds. Yes. Mediocre minds will criticize you, discourage you, laugh at you, try to humiliate you. But do not give up. Keep trying. If you want to do something amazing, you have to face those things. Once you succeed, those people, those who are laughing at you and criticizing you, their children will think of you as a role model and follow you. Okay? You can change an entire generation. I don't know how to interpret this picture. I think our ancestors, slowly they grew up and then again going somewhat bent. Computer. You interpret it your way. I wish you all the best and thank you.